I should have walked right back out the door the moment I heard the soft clatter coming from inside the walls of my new apartment. Because the building was silent, the hallway outside was empty, and I hadn't even finished moving in yet. The noise wasn't pipes. It sounded like fingernails brushing along the inner side of the drywall, following me from room to room. Sent by Lucas R., Toledo, Ohio. When I first signed the lease for apartment 3B, I thought I'd gotten lucky. Cheap rent, old brick building full of character, a landlord who barely asked questions. It felt like one of those rare breaks in life you should grab before someone realizes they mispriced it. The place smelled faintly of dust and old varnish, but looked decent enough. I'd lived in worse. The isolation hit fast, though. Not geographical, just this weird, thick quiet that seemed to live inside the walls. The neighbors barely made any sound. I passed men in the hallway sometimes nodding, but they avoided conversation. They looked exhausted, distracted, like guys who hadn't slept well in years. The first wrong detail happened around midnight the day I moved in. I was unpacking some kitchen stuff when I heard a dull thud behind the wall next to the fridge. Not the adjoining apartment. No, it came from inside the wall. Then something dragged lightly downward, a slow, soft scrape, like fingertips tracing a map along the studs. I froze, listening. Not mice, not pipes. It was deliberate. I knocked once on the wall. It knocked back. 3 slow taps. I remember whispering no, because the sound had a strange quality. Not hollow like drywall should be, but kind of double-layered, like something tapping from a space that wasn't meant to exist. I stepped away from the wall and the tapping followed, moving exactly behind where I walked, tracking me with almost casual interest. I told myself old buildings do weird things. That's true. But old buildings don't respond to your footsteps like a curious animal. There was a rule to it. One I learned before I understood I was learning anything. The tapping only happened when I was near a wall, and it always matched my speed. Fast steps meant fast responses. If I froze, it froze too, like it needed my movement to know where I was. The next night, things escalated. I woke up around 3:40 a.m. to a soft, rhythmic knocking, this time from behind the headboard. Slow, intentional taps. 5 of them. A pause, then 5 again, and again. The repetition felt like a pattern I wasn't supposed to decode. I got out of bed and the taps slid along the wall vertically, following my height like it was scanning me. I moved to the center of the room, and the sound stopped completely. No wall contact, no tapping. That was the restriction. It couldn't track me unless I was touching or near a wall. It knew that I knew. I felt that understanding pass between us in the quiet. By the 3rd day, the threat took on its signature behavior. It began whispering through the drywall, faint, wrong whispers, not quite human. The words weren't clear, but the tone was unmistakable, coaxing, measuring. The voice always had an underlayer of something like gravel sliding in water, and it only whispered when I was touching a wall without realizing it, leaning a shoulder, brushing fingers, sitting too close. The second I stepped back, the whispering stopped mid-syllable. That became the new rule. If I touched a wall for too long, it started whispering. If I kept touching the wall, the whispering grew louder. If I didn't pull away, the tapping started. And if I still didn't move, something inside the wall shifted closer. I started pacing the middle of the apartment like a prisoner. Furniture was pushed away from all edges. I ate standing up at the center of the room. Even sleeping in the middle of the floor, I'd wake to the realization that I'd rolled too close to a boundary and feel the soft, inquisitive tapping start again. The neighbors didn't talk, but they stared, especially at my hands, like they were checking for something. One of them, a balding guy with square-framed glasses, stopped me in the hall and said, "You're new. You should be careful leaning on things here." His voice cracked when he said it, and he walked away before I could ask anything else. On the 5th night, I made my worst mistake. I pushed on the wall beside the bathroom door to steady myself after tripping over a box. My hand stayed there maybe 3 seconds, but that's all it needed. The whispering started immediately, a soft chorus of syllables echoing too close together, like more than one voice speaking in the same throat. Then a specific phrase formed, clear as day. "Let me see you." I yanked my hand away, heart pounding. The tapping followed my movement, but faster now. excited. I grabbed my keys and went outside just to breathe air that wasn't full of whispers. It was almost midnight, and a cold wind blew through the cracked brick alley beside the building. When I came back, someone was standing outside the front door, a guy I hadn't seen before. He looked pale, unfocused. His clothes were a little torn near the shoulder. "Don't go back in," he muttered. "What happened to you?" He shook his head like he was trying to dislodge something from his memory. "It doesn't stop," he whispered. "Even when you leave, it remembers your rhythm." Before I could ask what that meant, he hurried off into the dark. That night, I tried sleeping again, desperation overriding reason. That was when the entity changed its escalation pattern. Instead of tapping or whispering, it started pressing. A bulge formed behind the living room wall, just enough to push the drywall outward a quarter inch, like something testing the material. Then another bulge appeared, and another, like fingertips pressing from the inside. I sat frozen in the middle of the room as the wall pulsed in small, steady movements, always pressing at the exact height where a human shoulder would be. I don't know why, but I whispered, "What do you want?" It stopped pressing. Then, from behind the entire length of the wall, a single, slow drag of nails traced from one end to the other. A full acknowledgement, a full claim. I didn't sleep. The next morning I tried calling the landlord, but my phone glitched out every time I got close to explaining the problem. The audio cut. The screen flickered. Calls dropped. Technological failure trapping me exactly where the thing wanted me. I went to the leasing office in person but found the door locked, lights off, during normal business hours. Inside the wall behind me, tap, tap, tap. That night, while pacing in the center of the apartment, I remembered something the pale guy outside had said. "It remembers your rhythm." That's when I realized it had memorized my footsteps, my walking patterns, my height, my reach, my voice. Every interaction with a wall had taught it something new about me. Around 2 a.m., it tried something new. The tapping didn't follow my movement this time. It predicted it. I stepped left and the tap was already there. I stepped back and the tap hit the wall behind me before my heel touched the floor. Then a whisper bled through the living room wall, soft and certain. "I know where you are." My chest tightened so hard I almost passed out. I stumbled, accidentally brushing the wall with my elbow. The whispering erupted instantly, louder, layered, frantic. The drywall pushed inward deeper than ever, as if something on the other side had thrown its weight into it. I staggered to the center, trembling, whispering, "Stop, stop, stop, please." Silence. Then a slow, delighted dragging sound, longer, smoother than all the others, like a tongue sliding along the interior surface. If you're enjoying these true horror stories, make sure to subscribe to Ultra Spooky and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we upload new nightmares. My throat dried instantly. It had repeated something I'd said weeks ago to a coworker while joking about scary videos. It had been listening since day one. It wasn't mimicking. It was evolving. I didn't pack anything. I just walked out, keeping as much distance from the walls as possible. I left the door open and didn't look back. I stayed in a motel across town for a week. On the 8th night, something tapped on the motel wall behind my bed. 3 slow taps, my rhythm. I'm writing this from a cheaper motel farther away. The walls here are thicker, but I know it doesn't matter. It learned how to follow me, how to travel through connected structures, through whatever hidden spaces exist between walls. Last night, I woke up to the soft sound of something pressing outward behind the headboard. Not tapping, not whispering, just the faint shape of fingertips pushing through, trying to find the height of my shoulder, trying to make sure it still remembers me correctly. This was just one of many terrifying true stories from the Ultra Spooky archives. Stay tuned for our next tale of horror.